Hi, everyone. Welcome to BeerThralls presents Beer Protocol.
We
I'm
did it
James.
right.
You know what? Because I'm the one that did it. I'm James. I am drinking a gigantic rum and coke because I have no beer in the fridge downstairs because I forgot to do that.
Well,
Also, celiacs.
yeah, I was about to say you shouldn't be drinking beer anyway, because gluten-free beer is disgusting.
We'll continue reminding you of this while on recorded air.
Yep, I know.
So restarting the episode in
Nope,
three,
no, no,
two,
nope,
one.
nope.
That requires James to put forward extra work. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, that's editing. Ugh. We'll do it live.
James is a really important first part of that quote.
Jake, what are you drinking?
Today I have once again Hardywood's Raspberry Stout, a chocolate stout made with Virginia's real raspberries, as opposed to Virginia's famous fake raspberries, which you can find on every 7-Eleven throughout Virginia.
That is true. And
Why the blackberries that have been spray painted red?
actually, yeah.
Okay, you know what? That's fair.
Welcome to Virginia.
I guess I haven't had your raspberries or blackberries anytime I've come to visit.
Oh, they're the same things. If you had one, you have both.
I feel
Okay.
like we're off track. Who are
Oh,
you?
sorry.
I'm Matt. I am drinking Bullet Bourbon's Cat Strength.
All right, gentlemen.
It's yummy.
Gentlemen, cheers.
Clink.
Clink.
Clank.
So we're doing my list.
Yeah,
Oh,
we're doing A-Force.
so oh man, a full A-Force list will probably be produced eventually.
Oh
No,
my
for today
God.
we're going to talk about Criminal Syndicate, the baddies, the crime boss, and his crime henchmen.
Whoa.
It
We're
depends
a
on whose perspective
legitimate
you're looking at.
businessmen.
Everyone just turns to look at Green Goblin sitting in the corner cackling to himself.
He's
He
legitimate.
was a legitimate businessman at one point in his life.
I feel like in the Marvel universe, teaming up with Green Goblin is a lot like teaming up with Joker in the DC universe. Why?
It depends on the
At
hour.
this point, everyone has to know what they're getting into.
Well,
Like you don't get to pretend to be surprised when the Goblin does something terrible.
no. See, I don't think they're surprised when the Goblin does something terrible. They're more surprised at what the terrible was because it's now offset the most terrible thing he's done.
I
And he's
should
finally,
specify. They shouldn't be surprised when he does something terrible to them.
oh, well, yeah. I think it's just a matter of playing the game and to see when it's going to happen. It's like playing a push your luck game where you just keep rolling those dice because you know you can get
No
better until
whammy.
all of a
No
sudden
whammy.
you
No
just
whammy.
push.
Oh.
Except when the dice explode, they explode.
Yeah,
Okay.
with poison, bleed, stun, confusion, the
Yeah.
usual.
Yeah. So my list that we actually got to play
My
yesterday.
list.
We actually got to play this yesterday. It did well. Just
This is true.
my mistakes caused it to not play as well as it should have.
This is
So-
also true.
So is
So
a normal James playthrough of a list then?
it is. I forgot that Doctor Strange has a card that lets him do a range 5 blast of 1 billion things, and
Hold up. This is not about a report.
I know.
Let us not dwell on past mistakes.
But basically, I did a big mistake at the beginning of turn 2, that caused me to be set back a lot. So, still almost came out winning closely.
Mentally take those thoughts and shove them into the dark place. Shove them into the void off the side of the camera. They're not here. We're going to talk about potentials. We're going to talk about what could happen.
Okay,
I
We're going to
still-
talk about
I
a
still see
fat
James.
man and his best friends.
Kingpin.
So me and you
Kingpin.
guys.
Please refer to him by his chosen stripper name, Kingpin.
So
That is my chosen stripper name. Thank you very much.
it's okay, Candy. Shut up. Kingpin.
Criminal Syndicate. First
Kingpin-
off, you got to have Kingpin.
He's got to be there. He is a big fatty, and he is a short move but long, able to do some pretty awesome things, especially if sitting in like the middle point.
Finish that phrase, James. Short move, long.
Blast.
Kane.
He's got a long cane. He is the Kingpin. He is Oddly, if he gets out of position, it's a very hard time to bring him back. That's why I learned, but trying to get him
So-
out of position is really hard to do.
So in general, like even with like the short movers with as large as Kingpin's base is, like sometimes there really is sort of a thought process with Criminal Syndicate, which we're gonna talk about Kingpin. Let's, for everyone's refresher, talk about the Criminal Syndicate affiliation bonus.
So it has two. It has two parts of the same
Say
power.
one leadership ability, 2 sentences.
The first one is you can spend 2 power to pass off an objective token to another ally.
A civilian or asset token specifically, I think, but
It's
that
something you're
covers.
holding it. Yeah, it's like hammers, everything.
It's some future proofing where if in the future they release something that isn't a civilian or asset
Correct.
token and works completely differently, it's not pigeonholed or too broad.
Right.
But currently, all of the extract crises in the game are assets or civilians.
I think if at this point also he might be able to pick up the chimichanga from Deadpool. Not 100% sure yet. The other part of that is the really important
let's
part.
not even start with that. We'll push that into the dark space.
Yeah. The really important part is all of your healthy characters. Yes.
What do you mean?
They're on their
Front
not injured side.
Thank you.
On the front side, not the scary red side.
All healthy characters count as 2 characters when determining scoring of points of secures.
So, James, real quick, in an average game, how many models are there on each side? On average, would you say?
4 to 5.
I'd say 4 to 6, but at 5 is a solid average for high point games. Low threat games, certain lists could still do 5. So for Criminal Syndicate, if one of your healthy people is on a point, how many models does your opponent need to have there to score?
3.
Is that the majority of their list on a single point?
Yes, it is. So that is the beauty of the Criminal Syndicate, is that you want to have like really tanky people that don't get moved very often, and set them on a secure point and just be like, all right, cool, you ran your friend over, great, I'm still winning. Cool, I take my point.
Yep. It's also potentially valuable, as we saw in our game yesterday was pointed out, that Criminal Syndicate lets you both score secure points a lot easier. Perhaps as importantly, it lets you deny points to your opponent pretty much on control.
Yep.
Because if all you have to do is get someone to a point where your opponent was heavily investing, then you can very quickly shut down their scoring opportunity for the turn, and depending on the situation, maybe even take that point for yourself.
Yeah.
So that's very powerful. And because Criminal Syndicate their models tend to be relatively sturdy, there's a decent chance that you can sort of weather the early game attrition war and get a comfortable point lead or point advantage.
It becomes less powerful the more people you have injured. But really, you're not becoming less powerful. You're just going back to being normal. So it's a really, really strong early game, gain a lot of points type or faction affiliation. So Kingpin, you need to have. He's got to be there. He's actually a pretty good tanky person. He's got a short beam. He's got a couple of good hits that push people around.
Who's next in your roster?
Green Goblin. He's also a part of the Criminal Syndicate, so he's allowed to be there. Green Goblin is a really good on his healthy side. He's really good at like basically getting to far points, doing hit and run, so you can actually do an attack and then move using 3 power, I believe. He's also got a lot of passing out of poison, incinerate, bleeds. He does a lot of the like kind of like hit and run stuff, doing a lot of the I need to get to that point pretty quick. With a larger base and a medium move, he's actually pretty good at that. But the problem with him, and this is kind of why he's kind of an iffy thing, on his injured side, he's not allowed to hold objective tokens. So he cannot actually pick up a hammer or pick up a civilian. And he loses a lot of his hit and run stuff, but he gets a lot of I need to kill this thing stuff.
Right. Goblin takes a solid offensive role in your roster, I think.
Yes.
He has the movement ability to quickly jump onto a point your opponent may not have wanted him to be at. He can hit fairly hard, and he can throw some good status conditions out to slow down and trip up your opponent.
Yeah, and then he
next on the roster.
Well, he does also kind of like his role changes from I'm going to try to secure a point. He can still contest on his injured side, but he's trying to get some points in the beginning. Once he gets flipped, he's purely an offensive character, trying to get other people just dead or flipped or KO'd, whatever he needs to do. Next is Taskmaster. We've gone over him before. He's just really good at being defensive while still passing out a little bit of damage. He's a good mid-range.
So I want to kind of clarify a bit on what we mean by being defensive, because unlike in like a game like War Machine, you're not trying to like hold a line or stop your opponent from reaching a model. In Crisis Protocol, when we say defensive, what we mean is, especially for this list, as Matt fades out of existence.
Matt coughed and then disappeared.
What we're referring to as defensive is their ability to sort of hang on to a secure objective point and to avoid being pushed around, to take some hits, and be generally difficult for your opponent to sort of control or eliminate through straightforward application of damage.
Yes.
And Crossbone fits that definition of defensive.
Yes.
Kingpin does too, to an extent, but Kingpin is vulnerable to control effects.
Yeah.
Whereas Crossbones, due to his aggressive, when he can move in response to being hit by an enemy attack, it's much less vulnerable to control effects.
Yeah, and he still has some pretty good offensive abilities, so he's still right there in that mix of I can hold a point, but I can still do some damage. MODOK, I was playing him as an offensive character, and he's not.
So again, like we're not trying to battle report and litigate the last game you played, but MODOK's role on the list gives you powerful control options.
He gives not only gives a ability to do he looks so smug now. He not only gives you the ability to do pretty good damage. His initial just power 0 attack gets sap, which is really good at controlling controlling your opponents. His second one is just a purely offensive, hands out bleed, and you can hit 2 people for 1 attack. What he's really good at is just getting people off of points. I just push you. Okay, cool. Late in the round, get off my point. He kind of does the same thing that Wakanda kind of does, where Wakanda wants to kind of get to points and sit on them like late in the round and kind of push you around at the end. That's what MODOK does, except nicer. But at 5 points, he's kind of like my big guy in the list.
Yep. But he also brings a large health pool, and his ability to negate wilds in your opponent's attacks means that MODOK is relatively sturdy. Again, fitting that defensive role. Is late in the round, he can activate. He can move himself onto a point and use his superpower to move other people to force them off of the point, letting you take what was potentially a scoring opportunity for your opponent, deny it, and then turn into points for you.
Yep. Now, Crossbones. I put in there.
Talked about Crossbones.
No, we didn't. We didn't talk about Crossbones yet. We said we put in maybe Ant-Man. We're still working that one out.
I could have swore we already just talked about Crossbones a couple minutes ago. Did we mix up Crossbones with Taskmaster on your list?
No, I talked about Taskmaster and how he's got defensive abilities and he's got a little bit of offensive.
Oh, I misread your list. I thought we were talking about Crossbones earlier, so I started talking about Crossbones.
Well, they're kind of the same thing. So
not really, but go on.
Crossbones I like Crossbones better than Ant-Man. Everyone else has been disagreeing with me, so I put in there maybe Ant-Man.
Hey.
I agree with you, James.
Hey, the person who's backing you up on Crossbones. Hey.
Yeah, I backed you up on him too.
Everyone here.
You didn't yesterday. So anyway, Crossbones.
Stop this recording. I need to yell at James for a while.
No, so Crossbones. Crossbones is.
Didn't everyone have this discussion? Yesterday never happened. Push it to the.
All right, cool.
So
So Crossbones I put in there because Crossbones has. You were just pushing it into me. Crossbones is there because Crossbones in like Cabal didn't really fit. The power was nice to have there, but Crossbones has an ability that makes him really nice to stay on a point and not move. If you hit him and you do damage, he gets to move short. So if you push him short, he can move short again and go back to where he was. I also like him because he is a surprise kind of teleporter. If you hit somebody with his more powerful attack,
I think like the community is calling them spend attacks because you spend power to use them.
okay,
If we're going to use like a shorthand to refer to that, because we've been kind of struggling with what to call those quickly.
yeah, it's and
Spend.
spend
Yeah.
attacks are pretty good.
Spender.
So he's got one that is you hit somebody. If you roll a wild, you can throw them before damage, and then at the end of the attack, he gets to teleport within 1. So you could hit somebody with a larger base, throw them. I think it's like a short or a medium.
Sorry, you teleport to within one of them before damage resolved. So you would teleport, then throw them for your new position.
Well, your throw is actually also before damage, so you get to choose the order. So you can technically throw him and then teleport, so you can get a little extra range. You can literally get across the board.
Oh, nope, sorry, we're both wrong. The
All right.
teleport is after this attack is resolved. So you can't choose that. It is always throw, then teleport.
Throw and teleport. So
potentially even better.
On a wild, you get to throw him. You can throw him into a direction, throw him into another player or something, another character, and then teleport within 1. You can pretty much in Gamma Wave get from the middle portion to the back their Gamma Shelter in 1 hit. And then you're right next to whoever was defending that the Gamma Shelter, and you can hit them with another attack. It's a really good tactic. I like Crossbones because of that. And he's really hard to do damage to because he actually can just say, I spent a power to negate 1 damage.
What I'll also add about Crossbones' Spender attack, the teleport, what's very nice is it is range 3.
It is range 3.
Which is actually a solidly long range for a lot of scenarios. And it is also only costs 2 power, which is very cheap.
Oh, it only
it's one of the
is only 2 power.
cheapest.
Yeah.
It is one of the cheapest spending abilities in the game. And what's also nice is the teleport and throw happen regardless of whether you do damage or not.
Yep.
So even though it only has 5 dice as the base damage, not terribly impressive, it's cheap, it has lots of movement utility, and it does all the things we've already talked about.
Yeah, I do like Crossbones in this list. I kind of like for his points, he's actually does pretty good at being like a mid-range to fighter with the possibility of late game changer. So
let's run to the bottom and then talk substitutions.
Yeah. Okay. So Enchantress. Okay. So now we're getting into the people who are not part of the actual criminal syndicate. They're just add-ons I have. Enchantress. Enchantress is there because Enchantress steals other people's objectives. She can push people around. She can kind of manipulate the board. She's my cheaper MODOK. If we're doing a lot of spread out objectives, we're not like Gamma Shelters, which is everything is kind of like in the middle. She'll probably end up replacing MODOK, so she can try to like steal stuff and bounce things around. Venom is my kind of the go-to 4-pointer for. I know this is going to be a scrap in the middle, so if I'm playing like Thanos or a very aggressive list, I'll probably put Venom in there with Lethal Protector, and just so. I mean, he's going to count as 2 people sitting on an objective. They're going to have to fight him, and he's going to be able to do his counter-attacking abilities, not counter-attack. We'll go to Lockjaw. Lockjaw is kind of new. He is the bestest
boy. He's a good boy. He doesn't necessarily bring a lot of offensive or defensive potential in terms of holding points to your list, but he does give you a really strong utility, which is
teleportation.
Thank you.
For a lot of slow, we have a lot of slow people in this list. I think pretty much everyone is. There's no longs. Everyone's either a short or a medium, and it's really annoying because it's very hard for you to get up the board fast enough to try to secure those points. Lockjaw counteracts that. He can just be like, "Oh, I'm near you. Cool. I get some extra power, and I'm going to teleport this person 3 inch, three, a 3 stick, forward, or wherever you want to go." So your short move person is now in the middle of the board where you want them to be on turn 1. If I would not play with like Gamma Shelters or like the straight line, everyone clumped up in the middle stuff, I would probably play them if they're having more spread out objectives, just so he can get in there and start teleporting people to where they need to be, and then kind of pull everyone back. My 2-pointers, Toad, because he takes objectives. He just takes objective tokens and runs the heck away. I like him if there is, say, the Montessori beam weapon things. I forget what the extract is called.
The crisis is called. I have it in one
It's
of my other note
Montessori or
pages.
something like that. We had it in the Adventures one.
The Montesi formula.
Montesi
There
formula.
are no R's in that word.
Close
Stop
enough.
putting R's where they don't need to be.
Listen, it's water. So when instead of people saying water.
Wada.
So
Get out of the dock, Wada. The glass shark coming for you, fat kid.
So like that, if they do Wakanda herbs, Infinity Formula, Struggle for the Cube, probably going to have Toad in there so he can get up pretty fast, grab it, run back. And also, because he can't hand it off to anyone, the Criminal Syndicate power lets you do that. So he can literally go, "Oh, I don't have to be within 1 to grab this. I can be within 2, grab it, run back, and go, here you go, Kingpin. Cool, I'm going to get another one. Hop, 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 hop." And then Okoye, because Okoye is amazing. And she's great for bodyguard, especially if you're bringing like MODOK, which everyone's going to want to kill. Her walking up there, getting a couple shots off at her range 4 beam weapon, or range 4
Energy
attack. That's just amazing. She saved so many people in my games. If you're not bringing her for 2 points, you need to explain to me why you're not bringing Okoye for 2 points in your list. So that is my characters.
So we have an ongoing debate for your roster of substituting Ant-Man somewhere.
Yeah.
The rationale
Actually, we have
being,
2 debates. We have 2 debates.
So the first is Ant-Man.
Yeah.
Ant-Man brings to a criminal syndicate list the power of mobility. Ant-Man is extremely mobile. He has the potential to hit relatively hard unexpectedly, and he has some durability with his natural stealth while small. Being able to be both highly mobile and have stealth means he can probably put enough distance between him and an opponent that he forces them to move, which reduces their combat. Or because it's so much of a hassle to go after him, maybe they just go after someone else, in which case he's in the free. Ant-Man also is only a 3 threat, so he's relatively easy to sub into a lot of situations.
Yes.
Now, we had talked about swapping Crossbones.
Yep.
Which I disagree with, because I think Crossbones plays pretty well into what your list wants to do. My substitute suggestion was Venom.
Yes.
Because I feel like Venom's areas of strength are already kind of covered by your other people. Namely, if you're looking to bring bruisers between Kingpin, not so much Crossbones to an extent, but I feel like Kingpin does a similar amount of bruising. He just doesn't have the healing ability that Venom has. He also doesn't have the 2 energy defense that Venom has, so he doesn't need healing as much.
Yeah.
Given the amount of Incinerate that's relatively common, like Venom needs healing because Venom's defenses get poked through quite often.
Yes, especially with like energy weapons. Yeah.
Um,
I think that the role that Venom is playing in this is holding a point and punishing people for attacking him. I know it's kind of counterintuitive with Venom. Venom still wants to do some attacks. He still wants to get out there and punish people. And it is a good choice to kind of maybe throw Ant-Man in there instead of Venom. But I do kind of like still like having Venom in there as a kind of a backup, especially with Lethal Protector. The other person that we were talking about that is on top 15 was I want to say Crossbones, and that's not correct because it's going through my head. Killmonger. Everyone's like, why not Killmonger? Killmonger is great. He kills everything, which is true. Killmonger is a really good character. He doesn't fit into the playstyle that I'm going for. I'm going for get objectives, get points pretty quick, get myself really far up, and try to stay far up on points. Killmonger doesn't like not attacking people. I don't think he fits well in my list. He definitely doesn't fit well in my playstyle for this list. That's why he's kind of in the top 15, but didn't make it to the top 10. Other people that were in it was Loki.
James, you are cutting in and out on audio.
I am.
Yes.
How bad?
I mean, you're recording, so.
Oh yeah, very true. Loki is in my top 15, just because he brings a lot of manipulating and screwing with your opponent's power, and their usage of that said power. Also, his move short before attacking. He does put a lot of control to the game that I like, but I believe that with Enchantress and MODOK, adding another control character to the list is just kind of would put me at a disadvantage. I'd have a lot of control, but I wouldn't have a lot of damage, and I wouldn't have a lot of securing objectives. So that's basically my list. We can go to tactics.
Yeah, looking at tactics cards, we have discussed a few for options for bringing one of MODOK's specific tactic cards. Aim Lackeys we discussed. Aim Lackeys was interesting when it came out, but after like a little bit of testing, we feel like it costs MODOK too much power for what is an okay benefit, being able to move one allied character short. We've also discussed Psychic Fortress to give MODOK and all of his friendlies within 4, I believe, range 4.
Yep.
Gives them cover, which does play really well into the list you want to run, which mitigates damage and forces your opponent to have to spend more actions and energy trying to force you off the point than you are spending in return to stay there.
Yeah. We didn't take either of those because not only does it take up a slot in my tactics, also it became a look at like we can do other things a little bit better.
Well, in some of our early playtesting, we still needed more playtesting.
So like Aim Lackeys, I had that originally in there. I took it out, gave extreme conditioning because it gives a single character a long move, and that became cool. I don't have to be worried about having MODOK. I can bring it in there. I can get Taskmaster or Crossbones a long move on their turn for pretty relatively cheap. And it wasn't linked to anyone. So like, cool, extreme conditioning is in there. Cruelty. Everyone's like, why not Bullseye? Well, Bullseye is crap. And they're like, well, take Cruelty, and he becomes better. It's like, no, he doesn't. He's still crap. But Cruelty, the card, is not linked to him. So you could have somebody like MODOK with a range 4 go, I attack this person, I sap some power off them. Excellent, cool. I'm going to spend some power for Cruelty and then do another 5 dice attack on the person I just did damage to.
Yeah. Cruelty is interesting because it lets you basically squeeze another attack in, where if you have a situation where you just need to bring somebody down, it's relatively inexpensive. And I think it works really well for a situation where you've already guaranteed that you can hit someone, either by mitigating line of sight issues or something like that. So it can come as kind of a bit of a surprise for your opponent when he thought they had counted how many attacks you could do and you pull out another one.
Yeah, or you miss it by 1 or 2 points, taking out Lockjaw, and you just need that little extra boost. it's pretty cheap. You get an extra 5 dice basically thrown at the person. Shadow Organization. Shadow Organization is awesome. It is a better stealth than stealth for everyone who is Criminal Syndicate. So like Okoye couldn't do it, but if they just spend a little bit of power, you now have a make believe stealth.
It has to be used during power phase, so
That
you have to be thinking of which round you want to use it in.
which we learned.
Kind of our play testing right now is suggesting round 2 might be the strongest time, round 3 soon after.
Yep.
After that point, it's going to come down to what the terrain in the field looks like. Round 2 is strong because battle lines are starting to get drawn, and lots of characters are going to be looking to make attacks early in round 2, especially since Shadow Organization is used in the power phase. You do get a chance to activate it before your opponent gets to take any actions if you don't have priority.
Yep.
So it is a potential strength as well.
Brace for Impact is amazing. You should
Pretty
have
standard. A lot of lists have it.
Save my butt. I used it where I only it was 1 point and I didn't want somebody flipped. It's great. Tactical analysis. Truthfully, I can't remember why I put tactical analysis in there.
Well, it is 2 power to give someone a short move immediately.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
So end of round is very, very strong because, again, with Criminal Syndicate's ability with healthy characters, you could potentially, literally in the last activation of the round, force your opponent to not score a point or sneak an extra point or 2 based on the crisis involved.
Yep.
It's potentially a big, powerful play, or you use it early in the round to get your pieces into position so that, for example, Crossbones can not have to double move, or Kingpin can be moved onto the point, and now he just focuses on walloping people, or maybe building enough energy to use All Hail the King.
Or using the beam attack and getting him into a little bit better position for it, or something like that. Yeah, it was better than Aim Lackey.
It really is, which is a big reason Aim Lackeys is no longer in our consideration because tactical analysis is better.
Field dressing as opposed to med pack. Green Goblin.
What?
That's exactly why I wanted to bring field dressing. Was because the ability to take somebody from a wounded state to a healthy state makes Green Goblin go from I'm going crazy and doing lots of damage to I can now hold tokens again.
Well,
and
more importantly, it lets you keep someone healthy to maintain the Criminal Syndicate's I count as 2 people.
Mm-hmm.
Because by the time they go to by the time field dressing could be played, they've already dropped their tokens. So unless Green Goblin's going to immediately pick them back up again, you would have the run the risk of him being hit again,
right?
Based on when you used it.
There's just a little more for Criminal Syndicate. There's a little more flexibility with putting people back to healthy as opposed to just giving them a little bit of health back. Disarm. I didn't want to take, and Jake convinced me otherwise, and now I'm probably going to bring it in every single list. Disarm is amazing for things like people that have multiple attacks, Medusa, Doctor Strange, people who are just throwing tons of dice at you. Just getting a few little lesser dice is awesome. It was really good, and I cannot express the first time you use it, you go, oh, this is way worth the money. It's like 1 token for 2 people. That's great. 1 power for 2 people. From 2 people. Wow, English good.
You got there.
Lots of rum. Lethal Protector. If you're taking Venom, you should be taking Lethal Protector. He basically bodyguards somebody, which allows him to do his I bite you back move.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think if you have a chance, you want to control the battlefield. You want to know with this list what's going to happen and when. I think we determined that you want to get the secures. Like, if you have a chance, go for the secures. Choose the secures. You want to know where the objectives that are never going to move are currently sitting, and that's what you're going to build your list to. And then fight for the
Speaking
extracts.
of, which secures did we take? So first one we brought is Gamma Wave sweeps across the Midwest. So this is a 15 threat scenario,
Yep.
which your list can play fairly well at a 15 threat.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
You have a range of point options for models. One of the reasons Gamma Wave keeps coming up over and over again in many people's lists, and what I'm kind of wondering if Atomic Mass Games will ever really incorporate this rule again, is Gamma Waves scores more points the further the shelter is from your starting position. So your opponent's shelter closest to them is worth 3 points. Almost, I don't think there's another secure crisis in the game where owning a point gets you more than 2 points at most.
Yeah.
So the fact that Gamma Shelter both has some damage happening that rewards controlling points by shoving them outside of 2, it also just gives away lots and lots of points. Gamma Shelter is fast games.
Mm-hmm.
So that works really well with Criminal Syndicate because if you have the mobility and if you focus on getting back there, you can really control both whether your opponent can score the 1 point for the shelter closest to them, but also you are potentially going to take a 3-point victory off of them, especially if you move late in the round, they can't react.
Things like Cabal, Thanos, Black Order, they usually only keep one person to control that back point so they can get their 1 point. If you can get there, that one person's irrelevant. You're counted as 2.
Yep. So that's one of the biggest ways. If it's a game with Gamma Shelters, if you can get to the back point, you can score 3 points relatively easily, and you can really build a point lead based on how the rest of the crisis is going, in which case that puts you pretty far ahead on the race condition. Now, if your opponent reacts to your play by pulling all of their pieces back, then they have likely given up ground on the middle and on your point. They're not pressuring your point. They're unlikely to attempt a Hail Mary of their own, which means you can still score 3 points compared to their 1 by just controlling the other 2 points.
Yep.
In a lot of ways, Gamma Shelter is strongly. I'm not going to say it's favored to anybody because Wakanda also really likes Gamma Shelter for similar reasons because they can shove people off of points so easily. But Criminal Syndicate has, I think, like a big advantage on Gamma Shelter in a neutral environment. They can still be affected by control in many areas, especially non-attack based control, such as like MODOK or Enchantresses force them to move. But if you can get even one person there, then that can invalidate a lot of your opponent's work.
Yep.
Okay. Riot
Extremists.
Spark.
Yeah.
Yep, Riot Spark over Extremists, a 17 threat scenario. This
Healing.
one has also 4 points, which gives you a slight advantage. There's a lot of secures where you can score, and it forces your opponent even thinner, which increases the odds that just one of your people getting to the point will score.
Yep.
And some healing helps you hold those points even better. Our last secure, Deadly Meteors, mutate civilians, 17. Oh, sorry, that was an old version.
Yep.
Infinity Formula goes missing. Infinity Formula is, again, a 4 corners map, so you can spread your opponent out. Also, for contesting, you get power, which helps fuel lots of Criminal Syndicates' sort of more expensive abilities, helps them use their harder hitting attacks, helps Crossbone, for example, stay mobile.
Yep.
When he can use his spender attack. And in general, power is good for everybody. Healing is good for everybody. Criminal Syndicate's no exception. Extracts that we would decide to go with. At 17 threats, struggle for the cube continues. This is a pretty generically good one. Take 1 damage, gain 1 power, hold on to the token. You can also, as like what's nice for Criminal Syndicate, is you can have one person that can have multiple tokens. So you could pile several tokens into one person. What's also nice is Kingpin and Crossbones can use their damage reduction ability. They can spend the power that the cube would give them to not take the damage the cube would inflict.
Yep.
So they can safely hold the cube using their damage reduction power, which is not key to an opponent rule. So you could potentially use the Criminal Syndicate's token passing rule to load up Crossbones or Kingpin with several of these things, and they just don't take the damage, and you score victory points. So that's potentially a strong maneuver if your opponent is sort of relying on the damage from the tokens to soften up your carriers. At 14 threat, I think this is the correct one.
The
We
mutant
have
extremists.
mutant extremists target U.S. senators, but this is potentially another interesting one where 14 drives lots and lots of teams to relatively small model numbers, which, if you can still bring a decent number of your own, would even further advantage Criminal Syndicate for their scoring ability.
If you can get the
So
senator pretty
depending,
quick and then bounce them back using
Yeah.
your pass the football power, you're pretty much getting scoring 6 in round 2. So that's good when you have one football, everyone's fighting for it, because you, as Criminal Syndicate, you can just kind of pass it off.
Okay. Finally, at 19 threat, panic grips the city as evacuation efforts continue. James, can you talk about this one? I actually don't know the scenario very
It's
well.
you can actually get the tokens, and then you spend 2 power to basically just remove them from the field. So it's really nice, especially if you have like Toad and Enchantress, and it's pretty spread out. If you can get more of the tokens and just teleport them away, just get rid of them, you have a severe advantage, because how can I phrase it? The less tokens your opponents can get, it puts you at an advantage. So getting rid of those evacuees as quickly as possible gets you points. Holding on to them gets you points, I believe, and it forces them back into a secure game, which you excel at. So if you can get the evacuees pretty quick, you're scoring a lot of points, and now you're forcing them into your secure that you chose, and that's what you want.
As we said previously, if you have priority, we would generally try to pick secures, because that's where we're going to be playing to a lot of our own advantage. So we want to have more control over what secures we play into. Would you prioritize gamma shelters if that came up?
It depends. If my opponent chose extracts and I'm seeing, well, let's put it this way. If I'm seeing them running Black Order or some super killy squad, I probably wouldn't take gamma shelters. I would probably have them go for extremists or Infinity Formula. I want them spread out as much as possible so they can't benefit from each other's buffs and stacking their abilities together. If they're playing like Wakanda, or you're playing against Avengers or Cabal, or especially if you're doing Guardians of the Galaxy, get them all clumped up. Like, get them into the middle, low power people, throw them off so they can take 1 point of damage at the end of the turn, and just whittle them down that way.
All right. So I think we're through the roster for Criminal Syndicate. So again,
Yeah.
our strategy is get to the secure, grab what extracts you can along the way, as you would normally do. But we want to be on the secure point. We want to drive our opponent's strategy by forcing them to react to us scoring secures almost at will. We want to deny our opponent from scoring as many secures as possible. And once we're on the point, we're going to have sturdier people that can take more punishment and be able to deal out a good amount of damage while on the point.
Yep.
If we're shoved or moved off of the point from control abilities, we're going to try to prioritize getting back to the point where we can.
Yep. So that's my list. I think I'm actually going to play this a lot more. I really like this list.
Okay. Thank you guys for watching. If you have any questions or comments about the affiliations we've put together so far, go ahead and leave it in the comments. If you would like us to cover a specific affiliation next, or if you want us to tackle a different angle on an existing affiliation, also let us know.
Yeah,
James, where can they reach out and talk to us? Either in the comments for this video or at...
I would do comments for this video, or our Facebook. You see on the bottom right, you'll see our Facebook link, and or Twitter. We can also answer on Twitter, or you can just email us at beerthralls@gmail.com. So,
Okay.
thanks for watching. Appreciate it. If you'd like, go ahead and subscribe, like this video, and we'll see you on Twitch as we start playing games in a few minutes. Thanks.
Thanks.
Game off.
Game off.